Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 22nd of November. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Sunday with Michael Portillo from 11, only on GB News.
On the 8th of October at Battersea Arts Centre, a new orchestra launched its inaugural season. The orchestra, which is named Chromatica, is formed of some of the best young musicians in Britain. They're due to perform in traditional venues and in community spaces. The aim is to bring their youth and dynamism to a wide repertoire of music. Predominantly, they'll work with emerging conductors who will have the chance to shape the orchestra and its repertoire. To share her experiences of bringing the ensemble together, I'm joined by the violinist and Chromatica Orchestra lead, Maren Bosma. To what extent is this novel? To what extent is this new ground?
Well, new ground, it is new ground in a sense that this is a completely new orchestra. Obviously, in the current sort of cultural climate, it's not really easy to set up a new orchestra. And so, in that sense, it's a novelty for us to kind of try and carve out our space in the current climate of musical orchestras and musicians in Britain.
Yes, I mean, it's quite odd in a way to think of a new orchestra because the ones that we have tend to be struggling and numbers indeed have been reduced. I used to be associated with an orchestra which unfortunately went under. You've got some private backing for this.
Yeah.
Why do you think the private backers have been willing to give you support? What is it that they see as your unique selling proposition?
Well, Chromatica Orchestra essentially is an early career orchestra. So we're formed of all sort of top musicians who've graduated in, say, the last sort of 5 to 10 years. Because everyone is of that generation, there is a sort of enthusiasm and dynamism that we bring to the stage I think is quite unique. The orchestra's mission, it's really focused on creating opportunities for young emerging musicians.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Welcome to State of the Nation, daily plunge into the stories shaping our country. I'm Jacob Rees-Mogg, and Monday to Thursday we bring you the insights, the facts, the truth about how our country is being governed. Because what happens in Downing Street matters down your street. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hello, it's 11 o'clock. We've got all the latest newspapers, the latest opinions and the latest jokes. So join us for the next hour to find out why working for Transport for London just got even better. High Street crisis worsens, but Primark have a plan to fight back. And we'll discuss why Nicola Sturgeon could be the new panellist on Headliners. I'm Cressida Wetton, and tonight's comedians are Leo Kearse and Bruce Devlin. This is Headliners. Every one of Saturday's newspapers as it drops in just a moment, but don't miss a second. Just before we do that, we're going to go to tomorrow's news. Here's tonight's headlines with Sophia Hill.
Very good evening. It's just gone 11 o'clock. I'm Sophia Hill in the GB newsroom. Your top story this evening: the Metropolitan Police has referred itself to the police watchdog over complaints from 2 women about the handling of investigations into allegations made against Mohammed Al-Fayed. These complaints were initially made in 2008 and 2013, and the Met have now raised concerns about the quality of police response. Commander Stephen Clayman from the Met Specialist Crime Team said they're actively reviewing 21 allegations reported to the police. This is to determine if additional investigative steps are available or if there were things that they could have done better. President Biden has said that the anti-Semitic attacks on Israeli football fans in Amsterdam are despicable and echo dark moments in history. This follows an independent investigation launched by Dutch authorities into an incident where Israeli football fans were attacked when leaving their Europa League match between Ajax and Maccabi Tel Aviv. The public prosecutor said 62 arrests have been made, and the Dutch Prime Minister has condemned the anti-Semitic attacks. Before the match, there was trouble between Maccabi fans and pro-Palestinian protesters, with Maccabi supporters reportedly attacking a taxi and setting fire to a Palestinian flag. Now back in the UK, Nigel Farage says the sky is the limit on his ambitions for Reform UK. The party leader spoke to the Reform Welsh Conference this afternoon and called on supporters to join his People's Army and to help the party organise and mobilise the UK. Farage also said the UK must roll out the red carpet for Trump and that he will help to mend the fences between the Labour government and the incoming Trump administration. Speaking on the state of the UK, Farage had this to say.
We are in societal decline, where crimes like shoplifting are now almost ignored, where Class A drug use is completely out of control, and yet the instincts of a Labour government are to ban us having a cigarette in a pub garden.
Well, the Prince of Wales says he's looking forward to playing a role at the COP30 UN Climate Change Conference in Brazil next year. Prince William's just ended his trip to South Africa, staging his Earthshot Prize Environmental Awards, now sparking speculation he could choose the Brazilian city of Belém next. The Prince has spoken about wanting to take the awards to every corner of the Earth to help find solutions to repair the planet. Prince William has already staged the Green Oscars in London, Boston and Singapore, and on Wednesday attended the ceremony hosted in Cape Town. And to end, nearly 2,000 fake Paddington Bear items worth more than £15,000 have been seized in a crackdown on counterfeit merchandise. Nearly 2,000 fake items have been confiscated from shops across Notting Hill, where scenes from the Paddington Bear film franchise were filmed. A trading standards raid in Portobello Road recovered 1,500 fakes, including tote bags that were being sold for £10 each. Those are the latest GB News headlines for now. Now it's time for Headliners.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Hello and welcome to Headliners. This is your first look at tomorrow's top stories with three comedians. I'm joined tonight by Bruce Devlin and Leo Kurz. Leo, this is Headliners' third birthday.
I know. I was a young man when this started.
So was Simon Evans. We've got a clip to prove it.
Oh, really?
Good evening, Great Britain. It's wonderful to be here hosting the very first edition of Headliners. Myself and two of my fellow comedians taking not a sideways look but a full-on glare at tomorrow's headlines.
Thoughts?
Genuinely 3 today. Thrice.
Yeah.
Thrice is nice.
Yes, this is the third.
How long have you been here?
I got here on the 10th of December 2022. That's etched into my brain.
Oh.
Yeah.
You don't sound happy about that.
I'm delighted. I'm thrilled we're still here. I think this is great.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's good.
We've come a long way. We used to be at that desk, now we're here.
Haven't been fired yet.
It's astonishing.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's have a quick look to see what Bruce and Leo have got to work with from Saturday's front pages. The Mirror leads with, "I did not abandon Liam." The Times has Iran plot to kill Trump. Telegraph leads with, "Labour paves way for the 4-day week." The Daily Mail has Britain's first death jab. The Express has Armistice Day, plot to swarm UK cities exposed. And finally, the Daily Star, Tango Terror. Those were your front pages. OK, let's have a closer look at them. Can we start with the Times, please?
So the Times leads with, "Iran plot to kill Trump." When I first saw this, I thought it was a typo. They'd missed out a space, and it was actually "Iran plot to kill Trump," and it was a confession by Hillary Clinton. The assassination attempts behind trying to take Trump. She was behind them, but no, the other ones maybe, but not the Trump ones. This is a man linked to the Revolutionary Guard, the Iranian Revolutionary Guard, who's among 3 charged over an alleged assassination plan, including an Afghan citizen. I don't know what he'd have against America, and I'm not sure who else. Just looking at this, this is a bad time. This is a bad time to be revealed as somebody who tried to kill Trump, because Trump is going to be president, and he's notoriously belligerent, and he bears grudges, and if you try and kill him, he's probably going to come back and try and kill you. If you come for the king, if you come for the king, you better not miss, is the lesson here that Iranians are going to learn.
Very good, very good. But they didn't think he was going to be the king, did they? They thought that she'd be the queen.
Yeah.
And I don't know how that would make it that much better, though. I mean, you're still going to be in quite a lot of trouble if you try and assassinate Trump.
And I don't see why they were trying to assassinate Trump. really, to be honest. I mean, he wasn't really involved in the war with Israel. I mean, he's supportive of Israel, but it was obviously the Biden administration that was supporting Israel.
Yeah, but it's a hell of a trophy, isn't it? It's like, you know, if you get a big moose's head on the wall, imagine if you've killed Trump. Well, yeah, it's a big deal, isn't it?
But no one has killed him. They've only grazed an earlobe, as far as I'm aware. And it was
correct.
funny you mentioned Hillary Clinton, because I was scrolling on the Instagram and I'd seen how, I'm sure it was AI, saying how she was going to get rid of P. Diddley.
Oh, yeah.
And she didn't know if it was going to be a piece of chicken or something else. It was all quite amusing, because a lot of people do think that she had to do, allegedly, with Jeffrey Epstein's disappearance.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And it was interesting that all the celebrities who'd been photographed with P. Diddy all came out and backed Kamala. And you've got to wonder what sort of files they've got in the White House to use as blackmail, to use as leverage. I just really hope Trump is going to release those files.
Do you think he will, though? Because he said he was having a big pharma investigation to do with trans health and all that kind of stuff. I think he's going to have one to do with COVID. So do you think he'll have one to do with J-Lo and P. Diddley do?
Yeah, I think he's going to release the P. Diddy files, or the P-Do files for short.
Nice.
The lubed up files.
Right, so that's enough of that. Let's move on. Bruce, can we have a look at the Daily Mail, please?
Yes, we can. And I can't help but feel I've been victimised again by this. This is to do with Britain's first fat jab death. And this is an NHS... I'm not making light of the situation. This is an NHS nurse who bought the King Kong of slimming drugs from an online pharmacy, and she dies after taking just 2 doses. So this was a woman, Susan McGowan, 58, suffered multiple organ failure, septic shock and pancreatitis. Is that how you say it? Pancreatitis, sorry. After taking 2 low-dose injections of the drug.
It's just shocking,
so sad.
Isn't it? She was well. She apparently wasn't significantly overweight, which, of course, lots of people would like to use this just to get rid of the last few pounds.
Like a lot of celebrities use it when they're not even particularly fat.
So the big argument for this is always, it's going to save the NHS, it'll stop everyone getting heart attacks and all of that. She wasn't in danger of those things, and now she's lost her life.
But it does call into question the NHS and the Labour government's push to put all the fatties in Britain on these jabs, because they're relatively new, relatively untested. We don't know what's going to come out. Apparently, some people are taking it just to be part of the class action, the sort of inevitable lawsuit that's going to come when enough people have died from it.
Do you think those are the Kardashians, because they've been taking it, and I don't think that they needed to take it at all?
No.
I genuinely, I feel really, really sorry for this woman and her family. I think
horrendous.
That's absolutely awful.
It's probably still safer than the COVID vaccine on these metrics.
Well, we'll have to do some counting, won't we? As you say, it's a new drug. We don't know.
Yeah.
I've read some really good things, but I don't want to be a guinea pig. OK, let's move on and have a look at the Express, Leo.
So the Express says Armistice Day plot to swarm UK cities exposed. So this is an undercover Express or investigation that is exposed that a Just Stop Oil offshoot is planning a highly organised disruption on a nationwide level during Britain's Day of Remembrance on Sunday, targeting five cities in the UK. And they've had a secret meeting on Saturday, November the 2nd, at a members-only central London bar for this exclusive event. It just sounds so poncy. They 50 activists met to listen to speeches and discuss policy while vegan food and alcohol were served. I mean, God, can we not just round them up already? Just that's surely enough to convict them, just on ponciness.
I mean, what is that, butterbean whip and a martini?
Yeah.
Love that.
Yeah.
I mean, surely after a night of, like, sangria and vegan food, you're going to want some proper food on the way home. They're getting kebabs.
Or the toilet.
On the way home. Yeah, but this is disgusting. To attack Armistice Day when we remember the men and women who've given their lives for this country, it's disgusting. I wish I could go back in time and tell those men and women not to bother. Why would you bother fighting for a country that's going to turn around and do this to you?
I think it's just terrible. Sometimes I feel bitter about being single, and I think, I wish I could find a man. And you think, no, they've just all turned into wet wipes, haven't they? It's not entirely my fault. They've all joined the cult of just stop everything. And, my grandmother's generation lost men to war, and we lose men to soy lattes.
Well, or peanuts.
Or P. Diddy.
Well, Diddley.
Desperate.
Diddley squat.
Absolutely desperate. OK, Bruce, let's have a look at the Telegraph, please.
And I think we're looking here at Labour paving the way for the 4-day week. This is to do with some kind of thing to do with the tube. People, the drivers. I didn't realise you get 70 grand if you're a tube driver.
Oh, it's mental.
That's not bad.
That's a base salary as well.
Yeah. So, and it's bringing in the 4-day week. So, although they will be working 4 days over 7 and all that kind of stuff, they are only working 4. Admittedly, they are having to work a wee bit longer on the days that they're working, but I think 70 grand's all right.
Oh, finally, somebody's thinking of the tube drivers. I mean, I just can't express the relief I feel about
You know, there isn't even a steering wheel on these things. Because you're literally on tracks. All you do is you press a button that makes it go. You press a button and you get all grumpy when somebody opens the doors or holds the doors open.
What's that levy thing then? Because they have that on the DLR, don't they? That's
for compressing bales of money. Compressing bales of your money that's going into their pockets.
OK, if they're on overtime.
Yeah. No, it's ridiculous. And like Labour are planning to roll out the 4-day week to more of the public sector. Obviously, because the public sector's unionised, the unions give Labour money, so Labour have got to give something back to the people who pay their wages, basically, or pay, fund their political party. But it's disgusting, especially with something like tube drivers, because it's something that can be done by robots. Just replace them with robots. Like get a Roomba vacuum cleaner. I bet if you stuck any robot, you just get a random robot from a shop, stick it in a tube train.
Driverless trains.
Driverless trains. Look at the DLR. It doesn't need a driver. We don't need drivers on tubes. It's just the unions keeping this scam going, and they're making so much money, and frankly, the nation can't afford it. Never mind a magic money tree. Like public sector workers or tube workers got a 5% pay rise earlier this year, and they're getting another 3.8% pay rise. And really, it's a 20% pay rise because they're getting a day knocked off their working week. And whenever they do this, they have like a trial. Public sector organisations have a trial to see, maybe we can do a 4-day working week. So obviously, everybody works hammer and tongs. Well, they don't work hammer and tongs, but they make the trial work because everybody wants a day off every week forever. So any trial is going to work. Nobody's going to, make it so it doesn't work.
So what do you think will happen if the train drivers then get part-time jobs working for Uber on the day off?
Yeah.
Do you think they will?
And isn't that like...
I've got a bit of a prejudice that I think people that are so keen on a 4-day week might not want to work on their spare time.
Public sector workers not wanting to work.
70 grand. I think I'd be watching a lot of Netflix.
Yeah.
On that. OK, anything on this Trump forcing Starmer to spend more on defence?
Yeah, I mean, I think Trump is obviously quite an isolationist politician. Although, to be honest, Republicans are always isolationist when they're campaigning because it sort of sounds good to voters. Oh, we're going to stop giving money to Ukraine. Really, Ukraine's not getting money. It's getting, decommissioned military kit. They've got deserts just full of all these tanks and Bradleys and all the rest of it. So they can just send it to Ukraine. If anything, Ukraine's saving them money because they don't need to pay for storage. So, I mean, I don't think Ukraine has to worry too much. And also, Trump has got a point that Europe and Britain need to step up and actually defend their own borders ourselves instead of depending on America.
Yeah, brilliant. Anything on this, Bruce?
No.
No, absolutely not. Not even having a load of Bradleys stashed away in your...
I don't know what Bradleys are. I thought you meant Radleys as in the handbag, but I didn't want to pick you up because I thought you might have that wrong, and I see that I do.
Man, if you see Bradleys, they're like sort of armoured vehicles that are a lot smaller and lighter than a tank, and they've got this 50 cal machine gun on the top of it, and when you see them lighting up the Russians, I mean, these things take out tanks. Even though they're much smaller and lighter, they take out tanks, and it's amazing to watch. You can see drone footage of them, just these tracer fires coming out the top of these things. If I was American, that's the only thing I'd want my tax dollars being spent on.
I want one of those to drive around Leith. I do, because there's a few people that are on my list. And I wouldn't necessarily do anything, but I think it would scare them.
It would cut down the commute.
Is not Ofcom compliant. OK, let's have a look at the iWeekend, please, Leo.
So the iWeekend leads with the depressing news that UK mortgage rates are set to stay higher in 2025 thanks to Reeves and Trump. What's Trump got to do with it? Trump's the president of America. How is Trump affecting mortgage prices in the UK? It's ridiculous.
But it's in the eye.
Oh,
so
you mean the paper?
The paper is in, yeah.
I thought it was in somebody's eye.
A friend of mine this evening was just saying that with Trump being in, he thinks the cost of living in this country, he will impose various tariffs and everything will go sky high. The irony is, I shan't reveal who my mortgage is with, begins with a B, sent me a text to say your mortgage is coming down. So, I mean, what's going on? Yeah, but I mean, I wonder how high it is. People were expecting mortgages to come down, because before the financial crash, they were down around, I don't know, it was like 2%, 2.5% or something. So there's a 4% prediction for the end of next year instead of a steeper drop. I mean, it's still a lot lower than, remember we had double-digit inflation, so mortgage rates could have surged really high. So I mean, I don't think it's that bad. But basically, it's going to get a lot worse than this is saying, and it's nothing to do with Trump. It's to do with
the Labour Party, they're hitting farmers, so food costs are going to spike, so there's going to be inflation from that. Also, they're borrowing money and they're spending it. They're giving public sector workers pay rises. That's going to fuel inflation. So we can stop pointing the finger at Trump.
And
we can point the finger at the Labour Party.
To fuel allowance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I hate to rush you. We're just going to have to move on and squeeze in the star, Bruce.
So this is basically Donald Trump on the front of the Star, and it says, world hit by a nasty dose of the tango terrors. Apparently women, I don't know who these women are, plan a rumpy-pumpy ban in protest. So I presume that means horizontal refreshment.
That's exactly what it
Then
means.
global politicians do a screeching U-turn on insults. Guardian editor offers devastated staff counselling. Madonna was so upset she ate a cake. No, seriously, it was all over Instagram. She says, I'm so upset and she ate a bit of a cake.
Well, there you go.
That's not Madonna.
Terrible. OK, coming up, we're going to be discussing BBC Verify. Have they had a failure? Stay with us. We'll find out soon. This is Headliners only on GB News.
GB News Breakfast. Every day from 6 a.m.
Following the summer riots and the resurgence of far-right ideologies, the former Education Secretary told peers that reinforcing shared values is now more crucial than ever.
So we're asking this morning, should we teach British values or would it be a step backward?
Or how do you even start? To debate this now, we're joined by the Campaign for Real Education chairman, Chris McGovern, and political commentator Matthew Stadlen.
Well, I think these days, particularly in schools, it's quite fashionable to look at the negative sides of Britain's identity, particularly British history. Personally, I think I'm very proud of being British, and I think we need to be proud of our country like most other countries around the world are.
As Chris says, Matthew, lots of other countries do it. Heck, you only have to look at the United States, don't you, to see how sort of patriotic they are. Is there anything wrong in trying to instil a bit of that amongst our youth?
I'm just worried it sounds a little bit communist, Stephen, being told what it is to be British. I've got my own personal but very vague views of what British values might be: inclusivity, patience, being able to queue, decency, respect for democracy and the rule of law. But I mean, very many people will have different sets of values. Some people are racist. So are British values racist? You talked about the far right. I think we all know what the far right is. It's sort of violent, xenophobic racism. But if you have, say, I don't know, 3-4 million people in this country who might describe themselves as racist or far right, and they're British, or as British as you lot and as I am, does that mean those values get taught in schools? My worry is it's a little bit communist.
GB News, the People's Channel.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop star to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel. And as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Welcome back to Headliners. I'm Cressida Wetton, and I'm delighted that I'm still joined by comedians Leo Kearse and Bruce Devlin. You've been sending in your comments during the break. I'm looking at GB News, Your Say, and somebody says Leo is a really snazzy dresser.
That's right.
Well,
and that specifically is Willie Cockshot.
Well, Willie,
you're
you're quite correct, because you're wearing a lovely blouse with a thistle on it.
Yeah, and what a wonderful name, Willie Cockshot.
Willie Cockshot. Well, funnily enough, talking of Willie Cockshot, I had someone message me on a different platform to do with Willie and his potential interest. Just saying, nice to see you back on television, which is lovely.
OK, enjoying the fashion advice there. We're going to start this section with Saturday's Telegraph and a story that might prove Elon Musk's point. You are the media now.
So this is pogroms have returned to Europe and the anti-racist left are silent. So there's chilling scenes in Amsterdam today that remind us of an ancient evil. Basically, there's clashes between football fans. The Maccabi Tel Aviv fans had flown in from Israel to watch their team play a Europa League match against the Dutch side Ajax. And, you know, it started off with your traditional sort of football-y jeering and shouting. They're chanting. Some of them were chanting some stuff about Palestine. Some Palestinian flags were torn down from buildings. Obviously, it still left about 1 million up because every European city has to have 1 million Palestinian flags on it now. But then it just sort of metastasized into something way more horrific. There was huge numbers of Muslims, these mobs chasing people, demanding to see their passports to find out if they were Jewish, and then beating them up. I mean, really savagely beating and kicking them, throwing them on train tracks. Some people jumped into canals to escape.
I saw one piece of footage that looked like the guy was purposely jumping on the train tracks to sort of get away from the people who were beating him. And it was one guy with a lot of guys on him. It was really upsetting.
Yeah, really.
Footage.
And apparently some people are still missing. And I mean, the issue here is, you know, obviously we've got huge numbers of Muslims in European cities because people said, oh, multiculturalism is super. Let's import lots of people from radically different cultures, some of them violent medieval tribalist cultures, and bring them into Western Europe, and it'll be great for some reason. And people said, well, might this result in, I don't know, intertribal, interethnic conflict? You know, might this bring some violence that we haven't seen in the West for a while, since, you know, the time of Hitler? Might that happen? And the people who suggested it might be a dangerous experiment were, of course, dismissed as cranks and racists and bigots. And they've been proven right time and time again. And, you know, this is just, it shows, you know, what happened in Lebanon, what happened in Jordan now is happening in Western Europe.
But also as well, a friend of mine who happens to be of the Jewish faith, he was saying that he'd seen footage of people actually getting their passports and their ID documents taken from them and just thrown away. So they couldn't move. I mean, I was on the phone to him for quite a lot last night. I mean, he's in a bad way. It was horrible.
Yeah.
It reminded me of being back. It's a slightly different thing, but in Dundee, you know, you were either Dundee or Dundee United. It was all to do with me being bullied for obvious reasons, if you see what I mean. So no answer of what team that you support would be the correct thing. And it really reminded me of that, just the absolute horror and hate.
Yeah.
And so we're all seeing this footage. And so when we hear from BBC Verify talking about this, this woman, Victoria Park-Froud, said that she'd spoken to a fan. That was her source. She'd spoken to somebody who was there and who'd sort of implied that actually the Israeli fans were sort of starting this. And there is footage of them pulling down a Palestine flag.
But that was kind of separate to this. That was just, you know, there's the teams of football lads are going to shout stuff at each other. They're going to do stuff like that. This was, you know, hunting down people who were unrelated often to the actual football itself. And it's interesting that, you know, people on the left, like Owen Jones, has just come out and totally excused it. It's weird that the left always makes excuses. Really, what these people are is the street militia for the leftist establishment. Keir Starmer wants to bring through Islamophobia laws, so even if you criticise it or question it, you can go to jail under the Islamophobia laws. The left has been totally silent on this. They won't. I mean, if you look at Iran in 1979, the Islamists allied with the left, and the Islamists, you know, were the sort of street militia for the left, doing all the violent stuff, and they overthrew the Shah of Iran. And then after the revolution, the left were like, oh, great, we're going to have a socialist paradise now with lots of vegan cafes and queer poetry. And the Islamists were like, nah, actually, we got different plans. So it didn't work out well for the left, so at least that's something.
I got offered gigs in Dubai today. No, I did. And I'm going to go.
They're going to let you go back? Yeah. Amazing. OK, we've got a heartwarming rags to riches story about a refugee turned entrepreneur in the Daily Mail next, Leo.
So this is the shocking video of an illegal immigration kingpin grinning shamelessly as he's hailed by a band as a first-class smuggler and the best agent. So this is 33-year-old Amanj Hassan Zada, which is probably number 3 on top boys' names in the UK, who is today jailed for 17 years after being found guilty of people smuggling. That's a crime we didn't used to have in the UK, but we do have a lot of now. So he's an Iranian national, arrived in Britain illegally, was initially refused asylum before being granted refugee status, because of course their asylum system is just, I mean, it's completely antiquated. It's not fit for purpose. It's just another migration route that can be completely abused by people like this. So in the video, he's seen throwing cash at this band and firing a handgun into the air 15 times. Oh, sounds like a brilliant guy. Oh, thank God our left-wing establishment brought him into the UK. And the worst thing is, because I was thinking, well, at least some of the cash that he's made from bringing migrants, smuggling migrants into the country, at least that cash will be circulating in the UK and maybe go into British people's pockets. No, it all gets sent
This is the hero's
overseas.
story. He's gone into the darkness, found wealth and sent it back.
Yeah.
I mean, on the other hand, if you can say such a thing, he's been put away for, I think, is it 17 years he's got. So this could be seen as a sign, couldn't it, to the gangs that, look, we're going to put people away. You're not going to get away with this.
Yeah, but do you not think that what he has gained in the time that he's done it, it's the same with Just Stop Oil activists. They're not bothered about sentencings and whatever. They're so hell-bent on jail. I'm not necessarily sure it will act as the warning on the cigarette packet of what not to do.
Well, and he's not the only one up to no good, is he? OK, we're in the weekend now, and David Lammy and Angela Rayner have mastered time travel. This is with you, Bruce.
This is Labour MPs to bite their tongues to avoid angering one Donald Trump. So several high-profile Labour politicians have been critical of Trump. They've been quite outspoken about it. But now the party is in power, MPs will be forced to tone down their views. Now, I'd like to see anyone telling Emily Thornberry what she can or can't say. I have a real soft spot for her. I think she's a bit of a goer. I enjoy her. I don't think she'd take anyone's nonsense. Trump apparently was angered during the election campaign after it emerged that Labour activists had travelled to the US, because there's nothing to do in this country, to campaign for Kamala and the Democrats, and they are considered a sister party to Labour. I did not know this.
You didn't know that?
No, there's a lot of stuff I don't know.
They're very much alike.
They're very chummy.
There's nothing new about that, is it? People going over to campaign for the side that they like. The point here is about people... Like, what did Angela Rayner call him the other day? She said he's a buffoon and all of that stuff. They've already done it. It's too late to say we're going to watch what we say.
Yeah, and that was after it was obvious that he was going to be president. So, I mean, it just shows the clumsy, leaden-footedness of this Labour establishment. And, you know, Trump loves Britain, and Britain should be able to get a great deal with Trump, you know, should be able to get brilliant post-Brexit trade deals with America and really bring down inflation and sell a lot of our stuff, revive our manufacturing base. But obviously Keir Starmer, the only thing, like, he hates modern capitalism is British people. So he's going to do everything he can to continue like getting on the... Farage even offered to be a conduit, to be, you know, to be a man to build the bridges with Trump, and Farage and the Labour Party have turned him down. So they, out of spite, they'd rather cut the nose off their own face than actually do a good deal for Britain.
Brilliant. Still to come, Nicola Sturgeon's got a new gig, but should she really be performing at a comedy festival? Interesting choice. Maybe we can get her on the panel sometime soon. This is Headliners, only on GB News.
Evening. Thanks for joining me for your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. Kind of more of the same tomorrow. The weather patterns are slowly starting to shift, but again, grey and dry for most tomorrow. But there'll be, again, some sunshine in northern Scotland. High pressure is still sitting to the east, keeping the weather fronts at bay for now. A bit of drizzle here and there today, particularly across southwest England, staying a bit damp and drizzly and dank across the south coast of England tonight, and turning that way too across parts of the east, northeast England into eastern Scotland, seeing some drizzle. Northwest Scotland keeping the clear skies. Could see some fog here, and certainly temperatures in sheltered glens likely to get down close to freezing. For most, though, we'll start the weekend at 6 or 7, 9 or 10 in the west. On to Saturday. And it is kind of dry and cloudy, but there will be a bit more in the way of drizzle, perhaps along the south coast of England. Again, mostly over the hills, so the moors in the southwest, seeing a bit of drizzle. But also northeastern parts of England, a bit dank and drizzly here, and some of that working into eastern Scotland. Cloudy for Northern Ireland, but western Scotland doing OK for sunshine. There will be some fog around first thing, and actually that fog could be quite stubborn. It could persist for much of the day, but generally it's the far northwest which will see the bluest of the skies. Elsewhere, again, a pretty grey day. Some drizzle at times on eastern coasts and across the south, but many areas just dry and dull, and a little colder than it has been for much of this week. Temperatures struggling, particularly across central and eastern England, only 8-9 degrees, and with that drizzle feeling even cooler. Further west, we should climb into the teens. Now, on Sunday, we will start to see more of a change, a bit more in the way of wet weather coming into the west. Outbreaks of rain and drizzle, nothing too heavy, but behind this band of rain, Western Scotland and Northern Ireland should get brighter for the afternoon. Most of England and Wales staying pretty grey, but some brightness likely in the east on Sunday. So a brighter day here, and also for most of us, a little warmer on Sunday too.
Why go out on a Friday night when Friday night comes straight to your home?
Talking about?
Join me and my A-team of top pundits. Chemistry tonight is electric. As we tackle the big stories of the day with wit, insight and fearless energy.
Man of the people.
It's all vibe.
Just a filing cabinet on wheels with a tie on.
So, order in Friday Night Live with me, Mark Dolan, every Friday at 8, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent? I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs. That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Headliners. Let's take another look at Saturday's front pages. The Mirror leads with "I did not abandon Liam." The Times has "Iran plot to kill Trump." The Telegraph has "Labour paves way for the 4-day week." The Mail has "Britain's first jab death." And The Express has "Armistice Day plot to swarm UK cities exposed." And finally, The Star has "Tango Terror." OK, those are your front pages. So we're opening this section with the I Weekend. And they've misspelt the word legend, Bruce.
Have they? Well, I'm dyslexic, so I wouldn't know. Musk's a headache with a megaphone. MPs fear ex-boss will ramp up Starmer attacks. Now, obviously, Elon Musk was a big supporter, or still is a big supporter of Donald Trump.
He's going to be in the actual administration.
He's going to be in the cabinet.
Yeah.
Right, OK. And apparently his money's gone up, he's worth even more now, and all this kind of thing. So with Labour, like people like Lamy calling Trump a quote-unquote neo-Nazi, something like that.
KKK sympathiser.
OK, fine, I'll write that down and use it for dinner parties. This is obviously going to be very problematic then with the very special and unique relationship that our two countries have. Will the sales of Teslas go down, we ask ourselves?
No, they'll go up.
Do you think they will?
He's a hero. He's getting in the way of the online safety bill and all this bad stuff that I don't want.
Yeah, I don't understand that. MPs are worried that Elon Musk is going to ramp up attacks on Starmer. I mean, how about Starmer commits to, I don't know, supporting freedom of speech, the things that a leader of the Western world should be supporting. He supports media diversity instead of wanting to shut down Twitter or X, and stops locking up British citizens for non-crimes, for things like sharing memes. That's really authoritarian and really something that's going to rankle with Elon Musk and any right-thinking person.
They're saying that the government is considering some quiet diplomacy. It's like, yes, that's what I would have liked from the beginning.
Or just any kind of diplomacy.
Do you think, because I think Elon Musk has had a hair transplant, do you think he's going to ramp up the attacks on Starmer because Starmer actually has quite a nice head of hair?
We don't know if Starmer had a hair transplant.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, from some sort of 1950s specialist. Makes you look like a little cockney.
Fanny Craddock.
Yeah. But Starmer seems to be the enemy of all of Trump's allies. So Musk, also Farage and Viktor Orban, like all of them, basically.
Well, they keep trying to compare him to Murdoch as if he's going to influence public... But his whole point is, this isn't a newspaper that he decides what goes in it. It's X.
Yeah.
The people decide. That's his thing.
We are the mainstream media now, as Elon Musk said.
Bad luck, everyone else. OK, Scottish Sun now, with proof, if it were needed, that comedian is not a protected term.
Nicola Sturgeon has been announced on the lineup for the Glasgow Comedy Festival, and I'm sure Bruce has already booked his tickets. So this is the former First Minister of Scotland. She's going to share the stage with crime writer and pal Val McDiarmid at next year's Glasgow Comedy Festival, where the duo will banter about their favourite books. Can't wait for that. One of our favourite books is 1984, which Nicola Sturgeon unfortunately thought was an instruction manual. At the bottom it says, Nicola Sturgeon trims man's beard in bizarre council elections campaign trail visit. I thought for a moment they were admitting she was a man. I realised it was somebody else's beard.
Well, yes, although she has been called a beard.
And she's got a beard.
In her time. But the thing is, she's not performing at the Comedy Festival as a comedian. It's like a chat show. It's about books. Now, there was an interesting thing during lockdown, and I think I have this right, that she'd done a kind of preamble party for a book launch for Val, which I think contravened some kind of impartiality laws. And also, as well, it's not the first time that Nicola's taken to the stage, because she did do some stuff at the Gilded Balloon, I believe, a couple of years ago at the Edinburgh Festival. Yeah. So Annie Wells, is that the MSP, the Conservative lady who used to work in Marks and Spencer's, and as you know, I like that shop. She said that she couldn't believe that she's doing this because her fee from being on the general election coverage is being bandied about as £25,000, which a lot of people, over and above the fee, were a bit like, but is she not subject to a police investigation at the moment? Should she be on? Yeah. She hasn't written a book, as far as I'm aware, possibly just a pamphlet of how not to team white shoes with everything you have. I mean, do you know what really annoyed? Like, honestly, you know, Nicola's not for everyone, and I know everyone thinks I'm shallow, and I am. My point was, right, this woman is on proper money. Yeah. Proper money. Would she buy shoes that fit? Would she buffalo? They were always too big. And have you ever watched the thing with Tracy Ullman, where she came back and did an impression show, Nicola coming out of the helicopter, and she was having to grip onto the shoes, and it's that detail that I'm interested in.
But she's not going to spend money on the shoes. She's got a big camper van holiday to plan for. But what's interesting is she's appearing at a comedy festival and she's wrecked comedy in Scotland. You know, maybe not for regime comedians like Frankie Boyle, you know, who just toe the establishment line, but the SNP's Hate Crime Act destroyed. Means comedians can't take risks. Look at the people. Jerry Sadowitz, Reginald D. Hunter have been investigated under it, and also she wrecked the Edinburgh Fringe by making accommodation way too expensive. Apparently the landlords used to have some sort of deal that the students would go home in the summer and then they could use that accommodation. She got rid of that deal, so now it's not just made accommodation more expensive, it's just drastically reduced the amount that's available.
And over and above that, they have brought in this Airbnb thing that even if you were a historic Airbnb person, you have to apply to Edinburgh Council. Yeah. And the thing is, you can pay up to £1,000, £2,000, you're not guaranteed anything. So it's a lot of money. So who knows what kind of book she will be fingering.
We're in The Guardian now, solving a great mystery, Bruce.
Well, yes. And again, I feel I'm kind of got at for this. It's to do with, this is by a masculinity researcher, so obviously I wasn't found on the... Well, I thought he was related to Rachel.
No, Richard Reeves. Sorry, I'll let you read the headline. OK,
so anyway, quote-unquote, a fatal miscalculation, masculinity researcher Richard Reeves on why the Democrats lost young men. Kamala Harris and Tim Walz had an opportunity to win a demographic that swung towards Trump, but they didn't fight for it, says the author.
No, they didn't.
No, they didn't. But what did they fight for? Because did you see... No, I'm being serious for once. Did you see the Anderson Cooper interview with Kamala? And she said, we've got a lot to do in the next 4 years. He went, OK, put a pin in that. What have you done in the last 4 years? And she went, no, we've got a lot to do in the next 4 years. And he said, I'll ask you, like, kind of one more time. So I think there was possibly a lot of missed opportunity.
There was no substance to her campaign. I didn't hear her enunciate a single policy, apart from a really racist one about letting black men deal drugs, which was...
Actually, that's one of the few things, because apparently there's a lot of incarcerated men of colour, and had that been downgraded or made not illegal,
She
then
locked
she
up a lot of black
she
men.
could have helped them, although it does sound, on the surface, very racist indeed.
But her whole campaign was just aimed at sort of, well, basically the childless cat ladies that J.D. Vance was speaking about. When she first took over the mantle, took over the reins, her whole thing was like, ooh, weird. Remember, they had that whole thing, and everybody was repeating it. All the news channels were repeating it. Donald Trump's weird. And even in the debate, she was like, you're weird. And it worked. It really worked against him. But it was a completely moronic and, you know, completely without any substance.
It didn't work because she underperformed with women as well.
Oh, it didn't work in the end, yeah. But I mean,
across the board.
For that week, she was doing well in the polls.
Right.
But polls mean nothing, apparently. Yeah, and I think young people, because young women as well actually swung to Trump, I believe. So young people just see through all the nonsense. You know, they see through the propaganda. The Democrats spent over $1 billion on this, way more than Donald Trump. And they could just see there's no substance there. And, you know, they can see that these left-wing open borders policies, these high-tax, high-spend policies, are wrecking their lives and pushing up property prices and making it harder for them to get a job and pushing their wages down. So that's why they lost young people.
OK, Telegraph next. And this isn't the clothing item that usually puts Muslim women in the headlines, Bruce.
No, this is really interesting. So a Muslim teaching assistant claims a school discriminated against her for wearing heels at a swimming class. Now, she felt that she was being singled out where non-Muslim or white people were turning up in strappy tops and gym gear, which I thought, if it's a swimming class, that's jolly sensible having some gym gear on if you're not going in the pool. But then I was thinking about, do you remember when you used to have to dive for a rubber brick in your pyjamas? But no one's brought that up. Anyway, this woman apparently turned up to a swimming lesson, so I don't know if she was going into the pool or not. But here's my problem with it. It's not her religion or anything like that. Who is still wearing cork wedges? She had on cork wedges. Now, if you think about cork, it's used as a bathroom floor, hyper-absorbent from water. Yeah. So surely is that not very dangerous?
Is that what you took from this story as well?
They saved her shoes. I didn't even realise they were cork. But I mean, it's good. It's got uses other than wine bottles, but she complained that she was singled out and it was racist and all this sort of stuff. Actually, other white non-Muslim members of staff at the school were spoken to for wearing strappy tops and gym clothes, so there was no racism. I think there should be some sort of jeopardy. If you make a claim of racism and it turns out you're just full of nonsense and you're just really bitter, then there should be some sort of...
You might get talked about on headlines.
Should be some sort of jeopardy.
OK, coming up, would you still shop at Primark even if they stopped providing sparkling customer service? And we're going to find out what might be living inside your charity shop treasure finds. This is Headliners, only on GB News.
And you.
Britain's newsroom. Weekday mornings from 9:30.
A Tesco store on a Scottish island has defied locals by ignoring pleas to stay closed on Sundays.
Tesco's has said that no member of staff in Stornoway would be forced to work on a Sunday and that it had received a significant amount of positive reaction to its plans.
Well, let's talk now to the Minister of the Reformed Presbyterian Church, Reverend Kenneth Stewart. Good morning to you, Reverend Stewart. You're trying to keep Sunday special, and if Tesco are going to open up, that means it won't be quite as special for you.
Well, yes, good morning, and thanks for having me on. Yes, Tesco, for some reason, they claim it's not economic advantage, but for some reason they've decided to go against hundreds of years of tradition on this island and the deeply held religious convictions of many, many people, including, of course, their own customers who are really grieved by this decision. We come, obviously, from the standpoint that a day of rest is effectively mandatory. It's a human right, along with the other 10 commandments which have undergirded our moral and legal fabric in society. It actually enshrines the human right to a day of rest. And of course, in the UK, that's been eroded for many, many years. Incidentally, it's still far more respected on the continent. But for us here, the Sabbath or the day of rest has been very, very important. It's not just what we do, it's who we are. And for some reason, Tesco have decided just to go against that.
And Reverend Stewart, we were actually talking about this earlier, how in European countries, I mean, even in France, which is a secular country, still very few shops will open on a Sunday.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Nightmare commute? Kick it up a gear with GB News Radio. You can listen online and on DAB+ and on the GB News app. We're also on TuneIn and the Radio Player apps. From the school run to rush hour, get revved up with GB News Radio. We are the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
We're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Headliners, opening with the Daily Star and Labour's budget making things better for working people, the ones that are left. Leo.
So Primark, which is a place I don't shop, I shop at TK Maxx, Primark or Primark are going to slash their staff instead of upping prices as high street crisis worsens. Hooray for Labour's budget. Already getting people fired. Brilliant work and putting up prices. So most major high street names have claimed they will have to cut costs or even raise prices to cover the increase in, well, there's various taxes that are going up, but mainly it's the increase in the minimum wage. And echoing those calls are the bosses at Primark. However, rather than increase their famous low prices, the company's CEO has claimed that they will slash staffing levels and increase the use of automation across all stores. So they'll use things like self-checkout units, which we all know and love, and they don't need to worry about shoplifting, because what, you're going to run away with £7 worth of stuff? I mean, it's not going to happen. They're also going to automate warehouses across Primark, which is, I mean, it's great. We need that sort of capital investment in technology and productivity. The reason this country's in the state it is, and the reason we're dependent on mass immigration is because we haven't had that investment in robots that'll do it for us.
Interesting. Hard to argue with that. I still feel bad, though, for the Saturday workers that won't exist. Like, I had my first job. It was terrible. I worked in a hotel making beds for like £3 for an hour or something. I can't even remember. Right. But it was the making of me. I needed a rubbish job to start with.
When you say making beds, were you a full-on carpenter?
Yeah, that's what I did.
But the thing is...
No, I was a... What are they called?
A chambermaid.
Yes, one of them.
Chambermaid. Yeah, but this is the same, like, with them going to self-serve, it's the same with the Bank of Scotland in Scotland, funnily enough. Like, you go in on the occasion, so say you've seen your Auntie Mar or your mum and you get some money or all that kind of stuff, or you get the odd cash, you go in and they're like, what do you want? And it's like, I just want to... and it's, you know, they're scared. And I'm like, if you don't go on a till, because that's the only thing you can do to help me, then you're going to be replaced by a machine. So that's completely up to you. I feel sorry that Primark staff are now in fear of their jobs, because I actually think up there with working on a plane, it must be one of the worst. Because if you've been in Primark on a Saturday, Primark is not the place for the faint-hearted.
Yeah,
it's seriously not.
It's a fun fight.
I've seen better organised riots.
Speaking of which, Daily Mail now, and the downside to Lewis Shaker's tie-buying policy, Bruce.
Right, I don't understand any of those words.
He gets his ties in charity shops. Don't you watch Headliners?
Yeah, all the time, but not when she's on. She's not my favourite. So what basically this is, now I've talked to you about this before, because I don't agree with it. Urgent warning to vintage shoppers. And can we stop saying vintage? It's second-hand. It's the same with calling fat men rugby build. They're tubby.
And rescue dogs. They're second-hand.
Oh, the poor wee dogs. No, anyway, the bottom line is that stuff is houfing. It's absolutely honking. You're going to get the squits. You'll get athletes. So I don't know how people can wear second-hand shoes. I mean, this is Britain.
What are you doing with the shoes? Are you eating the shoes?
Exactly.
You don't know what people are up to. No, I agree with it.
I think Primark have written this so that we still buy their stuff.
It's basically saying that, well, you don't know what the houses it's coming from, and some of the houses I've been in.
Oh, come on. Look, have you ever had... I'm a charity shopper, I have been, and it hasn't killed me. I'm still here.
Yeah, there's a charity shop near where I live, and I go in there and I speak to the women. They're still alive, despite being surrounded by this stuff.
Do you not live in Richmond, so you might get Jerry Hall stuff, which has got to be laundered?
OK, a biology lesson in the sun
Using
now,
a pump
Leo.
as a bidet. Pump as in shoe.
All right. I thought you meant an actual pump, which would work.
No.
Anyway, this is the science behind how short parents have tall kids. And this is after Gary Barlow's tall son sparked a meltdown. Not a nuclear meltdown, don't worry about that. It was just people on the internet saying, blimey, he's a bit tall. Not really a meltdown, but apparently genetics plays a key role in determining height, but it can skip a generation. So you can have short parents who've had tall ancestors. One of my ancestors was 7 foot tall, and then you have tall kids.
I believe you.
Well, I'm 6 foot, what, 6 foot 6 or something?
You're so tall that it looks a bit inconvenient, and I can't be bothered to get up there to find out. It's like, mostly women go, oh, height, you know, and then it comes to a point where it's like, that must be a pain in the ass.
You think I'm a freak? Okay.
No, I'm saying it must be a challenge for
But
you.
the thing is, as well, 6'2", is it really that tall?
No,
you know what I mean?
I was surprised when I saw that.
But the thing is, as well, with the height skipping a generation, that must be the same with hair loss then as well.
Yeah. And skin colour.
From the charity shop.
It can happen. There's a book.
30 seconds for another quick biology lesson, Bruce. This one's in the Daily Star.
Oh, my goodness. Now, this is an immortal jellyfish, ages backwards, and it only grows its... can I say butthole aperture when it needs one? So this is a jellyfish that grows and closes its own secondary mule. That's quite bizarre. Because you would have thought it would have, you know, everyone needs to release waste.
It seems like a waste of time to grow a butthole when you need it. Like, just have one and use it when you need it.
Just have one, don't draw attention to it.
Yeah.
Maybe play it down with a brooch that you found in a charity shop in Richmond.
Great. The show is nearly over, so let's take another quick look at Saturday's front pages. The Mirror has I Did Not Abandon Liam. The Times has Iran plot to kill Trump. Telegraph has Labour paves way for the 4-day week. And the Daily Mail has Britain's first jab death. The Express has Armistice Day plot to swarm UK cities exposed. And the Star has Tango Terror, something about Donald Trump, of course. That's it for tonight's show. Thank you so much to my guests, Leo and Bruce. Steve N. Allen will be here tomorrow night at 11 p.m. with Lewis Schaefer, so you'll be watching. And Paul Cox. And if you're watching at 5 a.m, then please do stay tuned for breakfast. Good night.
Oh, you're talking very...
There will be a light breeze in the morning, leading to a warm front. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Evening. Thanks for joining me for your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. Kind of more of the same tomorrow. The weather patterns are slowly starting to shift, but again, grey and dry for most tomorrow. But there'll be, again, some sunshine in northern Scotland. High pressure is still sitting to the east, keeping the weather fronts at bay for now. A bit of drizzle here and there today, particularly across southwest England, staying a bit damp and drizzly.